Now, how do you solve a problem like Eskom? That's what's being discussed in public hearings around the financial woes of the power utility. The regulator, NERSA, is holding those hearings relating to Eskom's application to claw back money, basically money that it lost due to projections around previous tariff changes being wrong. Due to a court case, this facility, called the Regulatory Clearing Account, was not tapped into for 3 years since 2014. But now Eskom wants to go back and claim 66.6 billion rand, which would amount to a 30% increase in our tariffs, unless, of course, it's phased in over time. Meanwhile, former Eskom CEO Brian Molefe has been ordered to pay back the pension monies he received when he left the power utility. To discuss these latest developments, we're joined by journalist and energy commentator on the line, Chris Yelland. Chris, thanks for being with us. So a 66 billion rand shortfall is massive. Just tell us how this comes about. Give us some of the history.
Yeah, look, there's two aspects to this extra claim that Eskom are making. Firstly, there is costs that are higher than expected when they did their multi-year price determination budget a few years ago. So unexpected costs come in. And in addition, sales volumes of energy are lower than normal, resulting in lower revenue than they expected and needed in order to cover their costs. So they're basically claiming for additional costs and for lower revenue, and this is a claim over 3 consecutive years, approximately 20 billion rand per year. Is their claim, as you say, totaling for the 3 years 66 billion. That is what they're asking for, but that's certainly not to say what they're going to get from the regulator. And the public hearings that are taking place today and over the next few days are all about the regulator consulting with the public and establishing which of these extra costs and declining sales volumes are a result of factors outside of Eskom's control, and which of them are directly Eskom is responsible for. So the regulator will only allow claims that are prudently and efficiently incurred, generally for reasons outside of Eskom's direct control.
This it would equate to apparently a 30% tariff hike. Nobody wants that, but it could be given over years. Like you say, it may not be given in its entirety at all. So should we all calm down about that 30%?
Yes, I think so. I think what really we're saying is if they were to recover all 66 billion rand that they're claiming over one financial year, then that would amount to about a 30% price increase. But the reality is they're unlikely to get 66 billion rand. Maybe they get half of that or a third of that or whatever they're going to get. It will no doubt be considerably less. And they will, instead of recovering it over 1 year, they might recover it over 3 years or even 5 years, which could mean that the price increase could be, something like 2 or 3% per annum for, let's say, 5 years, over and above the price increase that NERSA normally grants. So, yes, I do think we should not get too anxious. It is inconceivable that we're going to have a 30% price increase in addition to the price increase that we're likely to have on the 1st of April 2019. It will no doubt be phased and it will no doubt be scaled back.
Okay, so that's good news, but aren't we going to pay anyway, Chris? Because Eskom needs a lot of money, and if we don't pay in the form of increased tariffs, maybe in the form of a bailout that affects taxpayers anyway.
Yeah, look, there are a number of ways in which an organization like Eskom can increase its working capital. In the first instance, it can put up its prices, but there are limits to how much it can do this. The regulator is the person that decides how much they'll put up their prices. In that respect, Eskom would be recovering or getting money from its customers. The other way, of course, is to do it to get money from its shareholder or shareholders. So it could ask for money, equity from government as the sole shareholder, or it could take on additional shareholders in the form of pension funds, the PIC, the IDC, or listing on the stock exchange. That would be what we call equity, money coming from shareholders. The third way of doing it is borrowing money. In other words, getting money from the banks and the lenders. There's limits to how much you can do this. Eskom was already over borrowed, and so it's unlikely that it can increase its debt by very much more. The final way of doing it is, of course, by tightening one's belt and thereby releasing working capital, by cutting costs, reducing staffing, cutting coal costs, in every conceivable way, tightening one's belt in order to release working capital.
All right, so various options, none of them easy. Just very quickly, while we've got you, Chris, let's look into the smaller amount of 11 million rand that Brian Molefe has to pay back. Is he almost at the end of his legal road there?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but he has applied for leave to appeal an earlier High Court judgment saying that he had to pay back this money. This leave to appeal was denied. But I think he can make representations direct to the appeal court, even though the High Court have said they're not going to grant leave to appeal. He can make representations to the appeal court in Bloemfontein to try and get them to grant him the right to appeal. So I think there are still further avenues open to Mr. Molefe, but I have a feeling that he's not going to be successful.
All right, thank you very much, commentator there, Chris Yelland.